High above the swirling mists of the great rift, the Iron Spire stands as a lonely sentinel, a needle of dark metal piercing the clouds. Within its cold, echoing chambers, Julian, the last apprentice of the Order of Bone, holds a single glowing rib. It does not belong to a human, nor any animal known to the world below. It pulses with a rhythmic, azure light that matches the beating of his own heart. Suddenly, the light turns a violent shade of crimson. Julian gasps as the floor beneath him vibrates with a sound like 1,000 grinding stones. The spire is not just a building, it is breathing. Julian rushes to the narrow window and looks down, but the ground is nowhere to be seen. Instead, the very air is fracturing into jagged shards of glass. A massive, translucent eye opens in the sky, staring directly at the tower with a gaze that freezes the blood in his veins. He hears a voice, not in his ears, but vibrating through his teeth, demanding the return of the marrow. If he does not comply within the hour, the eye will blink, and the Iron Spire along with everything inside it will be erased from existence. Julian realizes that the bone he holds is the only thing keeping the world from dissolving into nothingness. The young apprentice turns away from the terrifying celestial gaze and runs toward the spiral staircase. Every step he takes is heavy, as if the gravity of the spire is doubling with every passing second. He must reach the foundation, the place where the metal meets the ancient stone of the world. The Order of Bone taught him that life is a structure, a framework of hidden supports. He understands now that the Iron Spire is the skeletal remains of a god, and he is carrying its last surviving spark of life. He stumbles, the azure light of the rib flickering as the crimson corruption spreads across its surface. As he descends, the walls begin to bleed a thick, silver liquid that smells of ozone and ancient rain. Julian encounters a door that was not there yesterday, a portal made of interlocking gears and petrified wood. From behind the door, a melodic humming emerges, a song that promises peace and an end to the crushing weight of his duty. He knows he should ignore it, but the humming calls to his very soul. He pauses, his hand hovering over the cold iron handle. The spire groans again, a deep, mournful sound that shakes dust from the ceiling. Julian pushes the door open and finds himself in a garden made entirely of frozen moonlight. Every flower is a delicate carving of ice, and the trees are pillars of solid light. In the center of the garden stands a woman whose skin is the color of a stormy sky. She introduces herself as Valeraine, the Keeper of the Forgotten. She claims that the Order of Bone stole the marrow from her people eons ago. She offers Julian a choice: give her the bone and live forever in this garden of light, or continue his descent and perish when the eye finally blinks. Julian looks at the rib in his hand. The crimson glow is now a burning fire, singeing his palms. He looks at Valeraine, seeing the ancient sadness in her eyes. But he remembers the teachings of his master, who said that the marrow is not a prize to be owned, but a debt to be paid. He realizes that Valeraine is not a ghost or a goddess, but a reflection of his own fear. He closes his eyes and steps through her, feeling a burst of cold air as the garden vanishes like a dream. He is back on the dark stone stairs, alone. The descent continues, but the air is now thin and freezing. Julian reaches the mid-level of the spire, known as the Chamber of Echoes. Here, every thought he has ever had is projected onto the walls as a flickering shadow. He sees his childhood, his first day at the academy, and the face of the master who died to give him this burden. The shadows begin to mock him, whispering that he is too weak, too young, and too insignificant to save the world. He screams at them to be silent, but his own voice is stolen by the echoes and turned against him. Julian reaches into his tunic and pulls out a small vial of powdered charcoal. He scatters it in a circle around him, drawing a rune of silence on the floor. The shadows recoil, hissing as the charcoal absorbs their malice. He regains his breath, his chest heaving. The rib in his hand pulses one final time in azure, then turns completely black. A cold dread settles in his stomach. The marrow is dying. If the marrow dies, the spire will collapse, and the eye in the sky will have nothing left to watch. he must move faster. He reaches the great forge at the base of the tower. Huge bellows, operated by invisible hands, pump air into a furnace that burns with a white, heatless flame. This is the heart of the world. Julian approaches the altar of the forge, but he is blocked by a guardian made of discarded armor and broken swords. The guardian has no face, only a hollow helmet that glows with an inner malevolence. It raises a massive rusted blade, ready to strike the apprentice down. Julian has no weapon, only the blackened bone. The guardian swings the blade, and Julian dives to the floor. The metal clangs against the stone, sending sparks flying like dying stars. Julian realizes he cannot fight this creature with strength. He looks at the blackened rib and understands its true purpose. It is a key, but not for a lock. It is a key for a soul. He stands up and walks directly toward the guardian, holding the bone out like an offering. The guardian freezes, its rusted limbs trembling as the proximity of the marrow triggers an ancient command. The hollow helmet of the guardian begins to glow with the same azure light that once filled the bone. Julian realizes the guardian was once a man, a member of the order who gave his life to protect the forge. By offering the marrow, Julian is acknowledging the sacrifice. The guardian bows its head and shatters into a pile of harmless scrap metal. The path to the forge is clear. Julian steps forward, the heat of the white flame beginning to blister his skin despite its lack of warmth. He stands before the white flame. The sky eye above the spire begins to narrow, its pupil a void of absolute darkness. The hour is almost up. Julian looks at the blackened rib. He knows what he must do, but the thought terrifies him. To reignite the marrow, he must provide a spark of his own life force. He must place his hand into the heatless flame while holding the bone. He hesitates, the weight of the entire world pressing down on his narrow shoulders. With a cry of defiance, Julian thrusts his hand and the bone into the center of the white fire. At first, there is no pain, only a sensation of profound emptiness. Then, a roar like 1,000 lions fills the chamber. The white flame turns a brilliant, blinding blue. The blackened bone begins to crack, revealing a core of pure, crystalline energy. Julian feels his memories being pulled from his mind, his strength draining into the forge. He sees the history of the world flashing before his eyes, a tapestry of light and shadow. The blue fire erupts from the forge, shooting up through the center of the Iron Spire like a bolt of lightning. It pierces through the top of the tower and strikes the eye in the sky. The eye recoils, its lid slamming shut as the crystalline energy shatters the glass-like fractures in the air. The sky turns from a terrifying void back into a deep, twilight purple. The pressure in the room vanishes, replaced by a gentle breeze that smells of wildflowers and ancient stone. Julian falls back from the forge, gasping for air. His hand is unburned, but it is now marked with a glowing blue rune that matches the pattern of the marrow. The bone itself has vanished, integrated back into the foundation of the spire. He is no longer just an apprentice, he is the living anchor of the world. He looks up the long spiral staircase, knowing that his life of solitude has only just begun. But as he hears the distant sound of birds chirping in the world below, he smiles. The structure holds.